For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Good morning from the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Easton Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends as we're going to be chatting it up with Chris Cichon, who does great work over at WBAL in Baltimore. We're going to be talking with him about what he's all seen out of the Baltimore Orioles thus far this season. Additionally, we're going to be diving in terms of the front of the AL East. We're going to take a look at just the landscape of baseball in general with him a little bit as well. So we're going to have a fun time with him in segment number 2. In the final segment, going to get you guys picks and analysis out of a game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, the naming does not matter, so as per usual, please send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, everything it is powered by Edge Boost. Over at Edge Boost, they make sure that you're able to have access to your funds 24/7, 365, and leap year 366 days, because unlike a lot of places in which you're running on credit and everything like that, this is just a bank account that you're able to have access to all the time. And when you go to edgeboost.bet, utilize the promo code of Greg, that is GREG, you're going to get a dollar for dollar match on your first deposit up to $25. So that'll help you get started. And now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Wednesday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Atlanta Braves started out the day getting the job done by a count of 4-1. For Bryce Elder, he did not pitch like an Elder. He was able to go out there for 6 innings, gave up 1 run. From there, Desbel Hernandez, 4 outside the bullpen squirrels. Rafael Montero was not Rafael Montero Bull, pair of outside the bullpen squirrels. Pierce Johnson, a scoreless inning, and Eli White comes up big in this one. A 3-run shot in the 8th inning. That is his first home run of the season, as Miles Michaelis was very good in this one. 6 scoreless innings. From there, you had John King give up a run in a third of an inning. Kyle Leahy, he gets a pair of outside the bullpen scoreless, and then Jojo Romero, he gives up 2 runs in a third of an inning. There were a pair of inherited runners, and then Ryan Fernandez gives up that home run. He is charged with 1 run over the course of his 2/3 of an inning of work. So the Atlanta Braves starting to get back on track a little bit more, and the Oakland A's have found themselves, the Sacramento A's have found themselves now to being 11-13. They take down the Texas Rangers by a count of 5-2. Jacob Wilson walked in a run, and that was his first walk of the season in over 80 at-bats. So that was pretty wild. Lakeford, he was able to go deep off of J.P. Sears, 6th home run of the campaign, but Sears was pretty solid for the A's. He does give up 2 runs over the course of 5 innings, and then Mitch Spence, Tyler Ferguson, Mason Miller, along with Justin Sterner, they all lend a scoreless inning, and for the A's, they get all of their runs in the first 2 innings of this game, as Lawrence Butler was able to take Kumar Rocker out. He gets his 4th home run of the campaign, and for Rocker, he got 5 outs. He gave up 5 runs, all of which were earned, and then bullpen from there was actually very good. Caleb Bouchley, the pride of Hortonville, Wisconsin, 2 scoreless innings. Jacob Latz, he was able to give you 4 1/3 innings scoreless as well, so some nice long relief there. The Astros, they should be relieved to know that they got the job done 3-1 against the Toronto Blue Jays, as the Blue Jays have been a bit of an under team this year. 15 unders, 9 overs at a push, and for Toronto, Bowden Francis, not necessarily his best start. 3 runs allowed in 4 2/3 innings. He does allow a home run to Christian Walker, his 3rd of the campaign. From there, the bullpen was solid. Yimi Garcia, Jeff Hoffman, both on the scoreless inning. Chad Green, 4 outside the bullpen, scoreless. And for the Houston Astros, Ryan Gusto, pitched with some gusto. 1 run allowed in 5 2/3 innings. Brian King, Brian Abreu, they combined for 7 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and Josh Hader a scoreless inning to be able to get the job done for Houston. You did have Rockies and Royals get rained out, so you're going to be getting a twin bill on Thursday, and you did see the Tampa Bay Rays in 10 innings get the job done against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Check that, 11 innings, 7-6. The final is for the Tampa Bay Rays. You did have Christopher Morel go deep in this one early on off of Eduardo Rodriguez, his second home run of the campaign for Rodriguez. 6 2/3 innings, but did allow 4 runs, including that homer. From there, Shelby Miller, and out of the bullpen scoreless, Ryan Thompson, he goes for an inning, gives up a run, and you had Justin Martinez, Juan Murillo, both will end a scoreless inning before Dre Jemison in the 11th inning. 2 runs, one of which was earned. Corbin Carroll continues to be white hot. Home runs number 8 and 9 of the campaign. He was able to go deep off of the starter, Taj Jonkel and Milton Bradley, who allowed 3 runs over the course of his 6 innings of work, and then off of Mason Montgomery, who gave up 2 runs in his inning of work, and from there, Edwin Uceta was able to end a scoreless inning. Pete Fairbanks, Garrett Clevenger, they combined for 2 scoreless innings, and Eric Orzi, he was able to give you a scoreless 11th inning for the Tampa Bay Rays to be able to get the job done. For the San Francisco Giants, they do get the job done. 4-2, they take down the Milwaukee Brewers. Freddie Peralta, not terrible, not amazing. 3 runs allowed in 5 innings. From there, Nick Mears, an unearned run, give it up in his inning of work. Brian Hudson and Craig Yoho, they were both able to end a scoreless inning. And for the Brewers, they leave 10 men on base, and they could get nothing going off of Logan Webb. 6 1/3 innings scoreless, so another Spidey sense tingling at home for him. Camilo Duvall, Eric Miller, both give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Ryan Walker does give up 2 runs, and he only gets 1 out in the 9th inning before Duvall was able to hold down the fort. And then you did have Tyler Rogers be able to end a scoreless inning. For the Pittsburgh Pirates, they've been getting some good starts out of Andrew Heaney. 3-0, the Pirates get the job done against the LA Angels. Jack Conowitz gives up 2 runs over the course of 6 innings, so not a bad start here. He does allow a home run to Oniel Cruz, 6th home run of the campaign. From there, Reed Detmers, 2 scoreless innings. Carl Edwards Jr. gives up a run in his inning work, but for Mr. Heaney, how about 6 scoreless innings, allows just 1 in. From there, David Bednar, Caleb Ferguson, Dennis Santana, they all lend a scoreless inning. Lots of scoreless innings to begin the day, as you had each of your first 5 games go under the total, and that includes the Padres getting blanked by the Detroit Tigers. 6-0 the final is for San Diego. Not the start that they were looking for out of Mr. Hart, as he doesn't lend a lot of length. Kyle Hart, he gives up 2 runs over the course of 4 1/3 innings, allowing a pair of bombs, as going deep off of him, Gleyber Torres, 2nd home run of the season. Then you had Justin Henry Malloy get his 1st home run of the season, and Dylan Dingler a little bit later on off of Yuki Matsui, 3rd home run of the season for Matsui, gives up 2 runs in his inning of work. Adrian Morejon, he gives up 2 runs in his inning of work. Alec Jacob, 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and for Detroit, Reese Olson, very good, 7 1/3 inning scoreless. Tommy Canley, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and then you were able to get a scoreless inning as well out of Will Vest, and vesting for a win was the Cincinnati Reds. 5-2, they're able to take down the Miami Marlins. As for the Redlegs, Brady Singer had the Marlins singing the blues, giving up 2 runs over the course of his 6 innings of work, as he did allow a home run to Matt Burvis, 7th home run of the campaign. But from there, Ian Gabo, Tony Santillan, Emilio Pagan, they all end a scoreless inning. And how about Austin Wynns? At 34 years young, he's having a career year right now. 3rd home run of the season, and he's hitting 500 as he goes deep off of Sandy Alcantara, who gives up 3 runs in 6 innings. Ronnie Enriquez, he goes for a scoreless inning. Anthony Veziano, he gives up a run in his 3rd of an inning of work. And George Soriano, 5 outs out of the bullpen, allows a run. By the way, the Marlins have played 69% of their home games to the over since the beginning of the 2024 season, so a rare home under for them. And then both New York teams were able to get the job done on Wednesday. The Mets, they win 4-3 against the Phillies in 10 innings. Zach Whelan and Dylan Wheeler gives up 2 runs over the course of 6 innings, including a home run to Brett Batty, his 1st home run of the season. From there, Matt Strama, scoreless inning. Jose Alvarado, 2 scoreless innings, but Jordan Romano, another not so great appearance from him, 2 runs, 1 of which was earned. Give it up in the 10th inning. As for the Phillies, they strand 12 men on base in this one, as David Peterson, great name, gives up 2 runs over the course of 5 1/3 innings. Jose Buto, Uskar Zobin, they both under scoreless inning. Danny Young, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Edwin Diaz, an unearned run, give it up in the 10th inning, went 1 1/3 innings, and Max Chronic was able to give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. And then the Yankees take it to the Cleveland Guardians, avoid the sweep by a count of 5-1. As for Carlos Rodon, a really good start. 1 unearned run, give it up in 7 innings. Fernando Cruz, Luke Weaver, they both under scoreless inning. Yankees do strand 13 men on base, but you did have Aaron Judge be able to provide a triple in this one. And for Luis Ortiz, he gives up 4 runs over the course of 4 1/3 innings before you'd have Joey Cantillo give you 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. And Zach Kent, he went out there for 3 innings, did a solid job in long relief, only allows 1 run along the way. For the Chicago Cubs, Cubs, they have been your best over team in all of baseball. 16 overs, 8 unders, and 2 pushes, and they get the over and they get the win against the LA Dodgers. This by a count of 7-6 as Ben Casprias was the opener for what was essentially a bullpen game for them. 2 2/3 inning scoreless. Anthony Banda, a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless, but then Noah Davis gives up 3 runs in 2/3 of an inning, including a home run getting taken deep by Pete Crow Armstrong, 5th home run of the campaign, and then 4 runs allowed by Jack Dreyer in his inning work before Kirby Yates, Evan Phillips, and Luis Garcia all end a scoreless inning for the Dodgers. Pair of home runs in this one off of Matthew Boyd, Teoscar Hernandez, 6th home run of the season, and then home run number 4 for Andy Pages as you did have Boyd give up 6 runs, 3 of which were earned in 6 innings, but from there Daniel Palencia, Julian Merriweather, Porter Hoge all end a scoreless inning. The home and road splits of the Seattle Mariners are quite curious as when they've been on the road, they have been a slugging, and they slugged it out against the Boston Red Sox. 8-5. Seattle gets the job done as J.P. Crawford gets his first home run of the campaign. That comes off of Sean Newcomb. For Newcomb, he did not have it in this one, giving up 4 runs over the course of 5 innings, including that bomb. Josh Winkowski in long relief gives up 2 runs over the course of 3 innings. Brandon Bernardino, 2 unearned runs given up in his inning work, and Tris Casas was able to go deep off of Casey Lugumina, his third home run of the campaign. That's big because Casas has not had the world's greatest start to the season as Emerson Hancock, pretty solid start out there at Fenway. 7 strikeouts, 2 runs allowed in 6 innings. You'll take that. Lugumina gives up that home run, 3 runs in total over his inning of work, but Gabe Spire, Andres Munoz, they both shut the door. They're both able to supply a scoreless inning. The Chicago White Sox, well, they have not been able to deliver a lot of scoreless innings this year, and they have it taken to them by the Minnesota Twins by a count of 6-3. For the Southsiders, Bryce Wilson gives up 1 run in 2 2/3 innings in pretty much a bullpen game. Brady Eisert from there gives up a run in an inning. Ben Murphy not out of the bullpen, but he allowed a run. Steven Wilson was able to end a scoreless inning. Jordan leisurely gives up a home run in his inning. Work came Bouger, 2 runs, 1 of which was earned in 2/3 of an inning, giving up a homer. And George Schuster, 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless for the Minnesota Twins. You had the bullpen really do their part after David Festa, not the starter he was looking for, gives up 2 runs in 4 innings, but Cole Sands allows a run in an inning before Brock and Roll Stewart, Danny Kaloum, Griffin Jacks, Justin Topa all end a scoreless inning. And for the Twins, pair of bombs in this one. Byron Buxton, 5th home run of the season. Trevor Larnach was able to get home run number 3 of the season, and you were able to get a lot of unders on the board on Wednesday, including one between the Washington Nationals and the Baltimore Orioles. 4-3, the Nationals do get the job done. We'll talk a little bit more about the Orioles in segment number 2 with our good friend Chris Cichon, but Tomoyuki Sugano gives up 3 runs over the course of 7 innings, including a pair of homers. Josh Bell, 4th home run season. James Wood is 8th, while Trevor Williams on the flip side, very solid. 1 run allowed over the course of 5 innings. From there, Jackson Rutledge, he goes for a scoreless inning. Jose Ferrer, Ore Lopez, they combine for 2 innings. They combine to give up 2 runs between the 2 of them, 1 apiece, and then Kyle Finnegan, scoreless inning out of the bullpen. As for Baltimore, you did have Gregory Soto give up a run in an inning as well. And if you're looking trend-wise at what we're getting in baseball right now, it has been an underwhelming season thus far, as the under hitting at 52%, 178 unders, 164 overs, with money line favorites hitting at darn near 61%, 220 and 141 on the money line. Meanwhile, if you look at the last 7 days in baseball, right around about 61.5%, 56 and 35 on the money line. And if you're looking at the under rate, last 7 days hovering right around about 53%, 45 unders to 40 overs. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we're getting trend-wise. Coming next, let's talk with our good friend Chris Cichon. He does great work over at WBAL Baltimore. We're going to be talking about the AL East, the Orioles, and so much more next right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Beast and Family Podcast.
If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine. And maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them. From disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Beast and Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as we've got Chris Cichon aboard. He does great work over at WBAL in Baltimore, covering a little bit of everything. You need the news, he's got you covered. You need to know about the Baltimore Ravens, because the NFL draft, that is in our lives right about now. He's got you covered there. The Baltimore Orioles and so much more, as they are the flagship of the Orioles out there in the lovely city of Baltimore. You're able to follow my Twitter/X at The Big Cheese Show. That is CHEE on Chi before show. And Chris, always great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Greg, thank you so much. Yes, it was a lovely week in Baltimore leading up to the draft as we have Mr. Trash Wheel cleaning up the Inner Harbor, the team president of the Ravens, Sashi Brown, down there. I got a chance to chat with him this week. A lot of excitement coming up with the Ravens with the draft here. Can't really say the same about this Orioles team as it is an early start to the year, but it has not been a strong start to say the least. But maybe we could have seen this coming, Greg, given the injuries that this pitching staff has sustained and what they were left with come opening day, which is a lot of guys who are probably on the later stages, certainly, of their careers, no doubt.
Yep, and I think that is big that you bring that up because with the Baltimore Orioles, no question about it, it has been rough for them with having guys like Grayson Rodriguez and company go down with an injury. Like on Thursday, we're going to be having Cade Povich go at it, and he's been solid at home, has not been solid on the road, so we'll see what happens there. But beyond that, it does feel like the offense has left a little bit of something to be desired because I'm not sure you've looked at this Orioles team, but had you told me that Cedric Mullins would have the year that he's having right now, I would say that this would be one of the top offenses in all of baseball. They've been far from like dead last in terms of runs per game or anything like that, but this is still an Orioles team that they have been a little bit hit or miss, sometimes with regards to bats as well, with some of the likes of Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson getting off to slow starts of the season as well.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And when we're looking at the game that they had Tuesday against the Nationals, they were retired something like at least 12 in a row by Mitchell Parker, who is a strong pitcher for this Nationals team. But look, you let Anthony, and I had this conversation with Rob Long, who's part of the pregame show with Masson, who right now, getting a little bit sidetracked here, but speaking of Masson, the excitement with the Orioles organization, probably more so at the moment, is the fact that they've got this direct to streaming option now with Masson. You could pay $20. Probably could not have rolled it out at a worse time, considering the team is certainly struggling. But yeah, what I was basically saying was I was talking to Rob about letting Anthony Santander go. And I said to him, look, this was the heart and soul of this offense. I understand that they've got a young crop of hitters here, and you've got to let Heston Kjerstad play regularly. But this is a guy that was a big part of the success you've had, and maybe you can try to see if something can be worked out. And the conversation centered around the Orioles having a lot of depth when it came to their outfield. You mentioned Cedric Mullins. He's certainly been a strong hitter for this group and has been delivering as far as the power is concerned, too. Had a brain lapse on Tuesday when it came to fielding. Certainly not something I feel like I see often from him, but instead of throwing to the man, he threw to the zone. Missed Ryan Mountcastle, which allowed Nationals runners to move up. So, yeah, that was just another thing that's been going on with this team this week, starting with Easter Sunday, where they were absolutely blown out. It was a embarrassment, as Brandon Hyde called it, to the team, to put on that kind of performance in front of the fans who took time out of their holiday to go check them out. So, yeah, this is a real team offensively certainly struggling. And it's not really looking like a guy like Jordan Westburg, who I know I've come on your show multiple times and talked so highly about. I still believe in him long term, obviously, but he's had a terrible cold streak to start the year. And it's Gunnar Henderson. He started off the year injured, so we haven't seen him probably playing his best baseball in total rhythm at the moment. But yeah, and then Jorge Mateo, I mean, this is a guy when he's rolling, he's not only getting on first, but he's stealing second, getting into scoring position. He had a terrible start to the season here as well, too. It's just a lot of coupling. You don't have Ryan O'Hearn. And another thing about Cedric Mullins, too, I do want to point out he has at least 16 walks, pushing 20. So that's been really huge, too. But, yeah, you need a guy like Ryan O'Hearn. That was a big thing for him last year, getting on base, walks. Need more of that from a guy like Ryan O'Hearn, and you just need this offense to deliver more when you have a rotation that has the worst ERA, at least, on Tuesday in all of Major League Baseball. It's hard for me to believe that Brandon Hyde and Michael Elias, they had a lot of time putting this thing together, that they have zero depth, it seems like, to overcome all of these. The Astros have dealt with sort of the same thing over the years. I think of guys like Lance McCullers going down, and they've had younger guys being ready to step up and deliver, the Hunter Browns of the world. The Orioles don't really seem to have that at the moment, and they're relying on Cichon, 35 years old, to deliver for them every 5 days, because Dean Kramer is not somebody you can rely on, that's for sure. And Cade Povich isn't somebody that I really love. I remember watching him last year in June. He walks a lot of guys at times, and this is certainly not a situation where the Nationals they're not that great to start the year either. I know they had, 9 or 10 wins to start the beginning of the week, but they can be sneaky dangerous, I think, in this battle of the Beltways rivalry, if you will. And they're proving that at least on Tuesday, jumping out to a big lead over a pitcher with this Orioles team and Dean Kramer, who, again, I don't know how you keep rolling him out there every fifth day, but they're going to have to.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I think that it's very interesting to look at this Orioles team. I think that your just comment on the depth is very big as well, because we have seen some of these teams be able to overcome injuries. Heck, the Atlanta Braves, for all the injuries that they had last season, being able to make the postseason, that was big for them, and my pitching staff was able to do a rock-solid job, and just haven't seen that thus far this season, as Chris Cichon, who does great work over at WBAL in Baltimore, joining me on the Baseball Betting Show. And part of what I think makes things so tricky for the Baltimore Orioles is that if they were in a division like the AL West, for example, I think that they'd be fine, but you know this as well as I do. This AL West, or this AL East, is very rock solid, with having the Boston Red Sox, with having the New York Yankees, with having the Toronto Blue Jays, and the Rays are starting to hit all of a sudden. Maybe the drop was just really mitigating a lot of their offense from a season ago. Just how do you take a look at this AL East race? Because I feel like this would be a team that would be fine, even in the AL Central, a little bit more than the AL East, where all the 4 other teams in this division, they're all very rock solid, and there's not going to be easy wins coming onto their schedule when it comes to the divisional matchups.
Oh, man, you need to be talking to the people of the Charm City more often, Greg, because the feelings of optimism are certainly not there. But, yeah, you make a great point. I agree. I do think that they were in another division. They might be, going a little bit better as far as the start of their season. But at the same time, they're not even really getting great performances out of the bullpen. And that was something that was the big key to their success. It hasn't been bad. You've had, Felix Bautista coming back, being able to lock down some saves, but Ciano Perez hasn't been strong for them, and they've had not the same sort of success that they've had in the couple of years past here, where they made it to the playoffs, albeit showing disappointments there. But yeah, if you look at the rest of the American League, I think the AL East is a tough division outside of, I know the Rays may have been hitting a little bit better as of late, but I watched a lot of the game they had on Easter Sunday, where Max Fried had the no-hitter going against them late in that game. And Max Fried's one of the best starting pitchers in baseball. But, yeah, Yandy Diaz, to me, looks like a power hitter but can't deliver with power. Brandon Lau, I never would trust really with 2 outs in a big spot. He always seems to strike out in those moments. You got Meade hitting in the 5 spot there. I pointed out Taylor Walls being somebody that's good for defense, but certainly not there offensively. Guys like Junior Caminero, I certainly can believe in. And Jonathan Aranda, too. But it's just not enough for me to really think that this Rays team is going to be formidable. I think Rasmussen's probably been one of their best starters here. Shane Baz, he's solid, but doesn't inspire a whole lot of confidence every time he goes out. And Ryan Pepio, kind of the same thing, too. I like him. I don't love him. He was out-dueled by Max Fried on that Sunday, Easter Sunday. So, I look at Boston, and they're going to be tough, certainly with their offense and some of the guys that, if you can have Rafaela batting 9th and rotating him out and moving over Rob Refsnyder, who's still able to homer. Trevor Story having the year that he's having. If Tristan Casas can hit consistently, and if they can get pitching Walker Buehler and Tanner Hawk and some of these guys every 5th day, and the bullpen getting it done, I think the Boston Red Sox are going to be in the conversation when we get into the later summer months as far as a team that could be a contender here. Toronto, I'm not quite sure of. Kevin Gossman's off to a nice start. Certainly if they, and as is Chris Bassett, at the time of the recording, we'll see how Bassett ends up finishing on his Tuesday start. But yeah, I certainly think that with this Blue Jays team, if Anthony Santander, he's off to a cold start, but Bichette's hitting a lot better. Maybe the Blue Jays can hang in there and be formidable. George Springer, if he can stay healthy. Alejandro Kirk. I mean, they have some guys. How can I miss Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who, didn't exactly hit a whole lot of home runs to start the year, but still making good contact. So, yeah, the Blue Jays will be there. But yeah, to ultimately answer your question, Greg, if we're looking at like the AL West, I think the Orioles would be competing, especially when we're talking about a team like really the Rangers are the ones that really stand out to me in the AL West at the moment. Like the Mariners, and I liked their performance. I just sung the praises of the Blue Jays, but the Mariners had a nice performance on Easter Sunday against them. So yeah, and the Mariners got some guys like Brian Wu who can certainly, I think, deliver, and Gilbert, and certainly, it's a lineup that with Randy Arozarena in the outfield, that was a nice acquisition for them there. The Mariners can compete, I think. Angels had a nice start, but yeah, I think it's going to be the Rangers in the AL West that ultimately set her done. And Jacob deGrom looked pretty good. He was pumping heat in his last start, so if he can go out there every fifth day and be a nice starter for the Rangers, maybe that's a team we keep our eye on to make another run like they did a couple of years ago when they went to the World Series and won that.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I think that it's going to be very fascinating to see what we get out of all those teams, and certainly in that AL East, there's going to be a lot of formidable teams out there. And I like your point on the Toronto Blue Jays as well, a team that has been, shall we say, a little bit reborn after they had the likes of Bo Bichette and company deal with injuries. So it's going to be interesting to see what we get on that front, as we do have Chris Cichon, who does great work over at WBAL in Baltimore, joining me on the Baseball Betting Show. And obviously, with regards to your main beat, you are out there in Baltimore. But as we are doing this podcast, it's really the, shall we say, the biggest geographical rivalry that they are taking on, with them playing against the Washington Nationals. And on Thursday, prior to recording this, it is going to be Cade Povich against Mackenzie Gore. And I know that certainly in your city, it's all about the Baltimore Orioles. But is there any love right now for the Washington Nationals and what they're looking to build? Because they're going to have their main ace in Mackenzie Gore going on Thursday. And they're a team that I don't think is going to be necessarily competing for the playoffs. But you know this as well as I do. I know that you've spent some time out there in our nation's capital when the Nationals were able to win the World Series many, many years ago. That was a team that really fell in love with baseball, and it does feel like they're starting to build something good with that Nationals program, and it does feel like the young guns are starting to be able to get some experience, and they should be able to be on the rise up both this year and in years to come.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And you are right. I was covering the Nationals with WTOP. I remember, since we're in the NHL playoffs, when the Capitals were playing the Vegas Golden Knights, and we were at a party downtown D.C., and I was in the bathroom, and Mike Rizzo, the GM of the Nationals, is walking out, and I talked to him about Juan Soto and said, we're fortunate to have him in town. And he said, yeah, this is a great young prospect for us. The next year they would go on to win the World Series. And from there, the pieces went their separate ways. And we know
the Steven Strasburg deal was a killer.
Yeah, that's almost similar if we're going to talk about a Baltimore team. Not totally, because it wasn't an injury thing and he's still playing. So it's apples to oranges somewhat. But Joe Flacco, right? After you have a winning championship performance and your free agency time comes, what are you supposed to do as an organization? The Ravens were in a position they had to pay Joe Flacco, and the Nationals were in a position where, after Strasburg's performance in the World Series, you drafted him, you built your franchise around him, you showcase on Masson his performances still against the Pittsburgh Pirates when his debut was there. Steven Strasburg, somebody that certainly the signing maybe had set them back, but again, I don't know what they would have done there. And then as far as love for the Nationals, to answer your question there, Katie Griggs, who's part of the business development side with the Orioles, was touting how you can watch Nationals programming just as much as Orioles program with the direct to streaming. And I bring that up again because that seems to be the hot topic now as far as watching baseball is concerned for consumers out there, being able to have these apps and check it out that way without cable. So, yeah, I am looking forward to hopefully these two teams prospering. It's nice when both teams are solid and relevant. And I think with the Nationals and some of the moves that they have made here, kind of mixing young and all. I mean, Dylan Cruz had an awful start to the season. Now he seems to really be finding the stroke. I know he hit the home run on Tuesday. You also have, guys like Josh Bell still with that team as well that really can, deliver for them. And then Keibert Ruiz behind the plate. He's one of the better catchers you've got in the league there. It's just a matter of their rotation. Can they all deliver? And they don't have Patrick Corbin anymore. That is certainly addition by subtraction, although Patrick Corbin will pull a rabbit out of a hat every now and then with Texas and pitch admirably, of course, when I fade him. But yeah, I think the Nationals overall are best not having to roll him out there every fifth day. You got Finnegan kind of, closing the door at the back end of that bullpen, above average reliever, I'd say. So I think the Nationals are moving at least in the right direction. It's just, you look at some of the pieces that have moved on from this team and you think of what could have been, specifically Schwarber and Trey Turner. Soto, I know he had mentioned he would have always loved to have stayed in Washington, but there was also the ownership change. So that kind of led to some uncertainty there, whereas, you knew, and with the Mets, once Steve Cohen acquired that team, he was ready to spend. And, I think Juan Soto certainly wanted the opportunity to play with guys like Francisco Lindor, who was an NL MVP candidate last year, and be protected in the lineup by guys like Pete Alonso. And so the Mets have been a strong team to start the year too. I'm going off on it, but talking some NL East, I had some action on the Mets-Phillies game this past Monday when Aaron Nola was starting, thinking that if I can get the Phillies as a dog with Aaron Nola starting against McGill, I'll take my chance. And Aaron Nola, the Mets got the best of him, and McGill was throwing some nasty stuff that the Phillies absolutely couldn't hit. That was what I was really surprised about to start the week this week, was listening to that Phillies game, hearing guys like Harper go down, Trey Turner, Schwarber, Castellanos. I mean, that is just a loaded lineup, even still when they don't have a guy like Brandon Marsh in there. And, McGill just mowing all those guys down. But it is early in the season. I certainly understand that. The Phillies, I don't know how long you can rely on a guy like Max Kepler, but their bullpen should be strong. And remains to be seen about Aaron Nola. You kind of just need him to go out there every fifth day and not get crushed. You still got Wheeler, who's effective, Christopher Sanchez. Yeah, they're a formidable team that I think will be competing when it's all said and done for that wild card spot. But I think the Mets will ultimately win the NL East. And the Nationals will be a better team this year. But I don't think they're ready for the playoffs, as you mentioned.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I do think that with the Nationals, things are getting better and better. But just like we were talking about the AL East being a gauntlet, the NL East right now, it is very rock solid as well. Sans, sorry to say it, but the Miami Marlins, I think that's going to be a little bit of a rough year for them. But it's always a good time when we have this man aboard. And I know that he's going to be having a good year, as you, Chris, do an incredible job over at WBAL in Baltimore. You do a great job covering baseball. I know that you're going to be knee-deep in some NFL draft coverage this week as well, with everything that the Ravens are going to be doing and so much more, reporting on the news and a whole bunch of other things out there in WBAL Baltimore, because you're pretty much a 5-tool player over there. So let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yes, thank you so much, Greg, at The Big Cheese Show. And we will be covering the NFL draft for the Ravens. I tried to ask team president Sashi Brown at the event this past week if the Ravens were leaning in any sort of direction. He very much deferred that to GM Eric DaCosta.
Shocker.
Yeah, exactly. But, Greg, journalistic practice, we do have to ask the question, and that is what I did, and they shut me down. So I'm going to find out, like everybody else, NFL draft night tonight coming up, and the baseball season certainly does not stop for this Orioles team. And when you ask me about the Nationals, I'm going to reference it again. 19-31 when they won the World Series, and the Orioles can turn it around if they're able to get Bradish and Grayson Rodriguez back. I don't know how encouraging it is with Grayson Rodriguez, but Bradish can come back, and maybe Kyle Gibson finds it again, maybe, but things are not as optimistic around here, Greg. But I will say, joining your program makes me very happy, and so thank you so much for having me.
And it's always great to be able to have Chris aboard. Always makes this show a little bit better, and every single time he joins me, lends such great insight. So big thanks to Chris for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast. They give you a big set analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Chris Cichon. He's doing great work over at WBAL in Baltimore. He does a tremendous job taking a look at this great game of baseball. He does a tremendous job reporting the news that is happening out there in the great state of Maryland as well. Every single time he joins me, lends such great insights, and did so once again today. So big thanks, Chris, for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at GNet_D1, and we're going to be going in the Las Vegas station order. This is where we go with the lone National League game first, the American League games, and then the Interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom, so that'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. Let's get things started with 901, 902 on the betting board. The Milwaukee Brewers hit the road. They're facing off against the San Francisco Giants as Landon Roop is on the bump for the Giants, and Tobias Myers goes for the Brewers. Total on this game is 7.5. Under is between -110 to a -120. Over is between even a -110, and with the Giants, they're anywhere between -134 to -140 favorites, and between +118 to +125. That number on the crew, and with the Brewers, do need at least a +132 to be able to take a shot here. If you're looking at that Giants run line, right now that's opening up at a +165. I was willing to lay up to a -132 on that money line, so if I had to play it right now, I would be looking at that Giants run line, because I do think that they're actually going to be able to get to Tobias Myers. I am in on the over. With Myers last year, he did post up an ERA of a 3, but his fielding at bat was right around about a 391. Even at the minor league level, he wasn't getting a lot of swings and misses when it came to his rehab starts. He's pretty much starting his season 4 weeks later than everyone else, so I think that there's a propensity for him to get a little bit lit up here, and it is a Brewers unit in the bullpen that has been in the bottom 8 in terms of ERA. Now, I think that they're much better than what the raw numbers indicate, because you've got so many guys like Yoel Payamps, Elvis Figueroa, Jared Koenig, Trevor McGill, all these guys that were able to give you a sub-3.5 ERA last season, and Abner Uribe has been very good for this team. But that said, I do think that the Giants here are going to be able to get to them, and for the San Francisco Giants, Jung-Ho Lee has been tremendous. Give you well north of a 300 average to begin the season. He has been able to do a nice job moving the line. Matt Chapman has been able to do a nice job of getting on base and is showing some solid power. Not necessarily amazing power, but certainly solid. And additionally, when it comes to this Giants lineup, you've got Mike Yastrzemski give you north of a 400 on base. Wilmer Flores is hitting for a solid average with 7 home runs as well. Some of the guys at the bottom, like Patrick Bailey, Lamont Wade Jr., you need a bit more out of them, but all in all, like what I'm seeing there. And for the Brewers, you've got a pair of guys that have been able to do a nice job of finding a way on. It's Al Frelick along with Bryce Terang, entering DSJ hitting above a 320. Gotten 5 home runs out of Christian Yelich and Jackson Chourio, but Yelich just not getting on base the same way they did in previous years. I just don't think we're ever going to find that MVP form of him. And then the infielders like Joey Ortiz, Vinny Capra, they've been a bit hit or miss. For the San Francisco Giants, it's not necessarily an amazing bullpen, but you've got guys that are doing a good enough job. You've had Camilo Doval be a little bit hit or miss for the team, but when it comes to the likes of Eric Miller, Tyler Rogers, along with even the closer Ryan Walker, albeit had a little bit of a rough go of it against the LA Angels a few days ago. All in all, I do think that these guys find a way to get the job done. And for Landon Roop, throughout his career, 0.6 home runs allowed per 9 innings. He does a nice job with the swing and miss stuff thus far this season, north of 11 strikeouts per 9 innings. And last year, he was giving out 4.6 walks per 9 innings, down to 3.2 this season. So this set the Giants at a -132. If I had to play it right now, I'd be taking a look at that plus 165 run line, and I do like the over, so my total 7.7. 903, 904 on the betting board. The Chicago White Sox at the road. They're facing off against the Minnesota Twins. Chris Paddock is on the bump for the Twins, and Shane Smith is on the bump for the White Sox. White Sox do find themselves between plus 190 to plus 195 underdogs, and between -217 to a -235. That number on Minnesota with 8.5 being the total. The under is -115, over is -105. And if you're looking at that run line of the Minnesota Twins, that's between -110 to a -115. Wouldn't want to go past a -110, but I'm willing to lay that -110 run line. I did set my money line price at a -224. For Shane Smith, he's actually been quite good for the Chicago White Sox. 2.92 ERA through his first 4 starts of the season. He's not really giving up the deep ball. It's not like he's getting a tremendous amount of swings and misses or anything like that, but he's doing enough to be able to get swings and misses. And for Chris Paddock, he's looked much better in his last 2 starts. Last 2 starts across 10 innings, he's allowed 3 runs, 11 punch-outs. First 2 starts of the season, it was very much less than savory, but for Paddock ever since he joined the Minnesota Twins. He's been better than what the raw ERA would indicate. His ERA is north of 5, but his fielding independence is a full point lower, so I do think that, shall we say, some positive regression is starting to come in from, and you've got a White Sox team that's just flat out not slugging the cover off the ball, as for right now, they're averaging about 2.7 to 2.8 runs per game when they're away from home. They do get back Ender Benintendi. That helps them out a little bit as he's able to give you a little bit of power. He's been able to hit north of a 235, which is much more than what I'd be able to say for most of the other guys, as in the White Sox lineup, in terms of their starters yesterday, you had 3 guys in the starting lineup that were hitting above $190 going into the night. It's not great to say the least. Luis Robert has been absolutely terrible. Andrew Vaughn can't find a way to be able to get online. You've got Miguel Vargas, who has been absolutely terrible. And for the Minnesota Twins, this team is in the bottom 5 with regards to their offense, as well as they're getting back Brooks Lee, but he hasn't looked like himself. Royce Lewis, shock, surprise, surprise, is back on the injured list. Carlos Correa has been awful this season. Byron Buxton is giving you a little bit of power, but he's hitting for a 261 on base. Matt Wallner just hit the injured list. Harrison Bader's giving you 3 home runs, so that's good, but for the Minnesota Twins, certainly their bullpen is much better than that of the Chicago White Sox. Griffin Jax has had a few stumbles this season, but so Brock Stewart is fresh off the injured list. Yohan Duran, Anthony Kalum, these guys have been pretty rock solid. And on the flip side, it is a Chicago White Sox team that was trotting out there Mike Clevenger out the bullpen to begin the season. That was a little bit less than savory, to say the least. You've got Jordan Leisure right now at the closer spot. I actually like Penn Murphy along Cam Bouger, but the rest of the bullpen, it's very much shaky, to say the least. They had to use up quite a few arms yesterday as well. So this is a circumstance where I do think that the Minnesota Twins should be able to take it to the Chicago White Sox. Did I told 7.8. I think that this is a low-scoring game. I'm in on the under, and I'm in on the Minnesota Twins at a -110 run line. 9-5 and 9-6 on the betting board. The Seattle Mariners hit the road. They're facing off against the Boston Red Sox. Garrett Crochet is on the bump for the Sox, and Brian Wu says woohoo to another start. And for the Seattle Mariners, you're going to be getting them between +140 to +145, or between -155 to a -165. That number on Boston, 8 is the total. The over is -120, and the under is even. And with Seattle, I did set them at a +152 on the money line, so I'm right now taking a look at the run line of the Boston Red Sox. That's right now right around +130, +135, and I'd be willing to settle on that +135 run line. Wouldn't want to be going much lower than that, but Garrett Crochet has been absolutely nasty this season now. Your numbers are helped out very much so when 2 of your starts come against the Chicago White Sox, and that does get factored with this, but that's that for Garrett Crochet. Even in his non-White Sox starts, he has been very rock solid, as he has allowed 2 earned runs or fewer in every one of his starts thus far this season, and he's just flat up and dominant. 1.13 ERA, 2.18 fielding dependent, 10 strikeouts to fewer than 3 walks per 9 innings. He has done his part. And for Brian Wu, the swing and miss stuff since his rookie year just hasn't quite been there. He's been very good in terms of his command. If you look since the beginning of the 2024 campaign, he is allowing less than 1.5 walks per 9 innings. Thus far this season, 3.03 fielding dependent, 3.12 ERA. So he's going out there. He's been able to do his part. And for the Boston Red Sox, it has been, shall we say, a little bit hit or miss in terms of this lineup to begin the season, as you've had Rafael Devers have his ups and downs, to say the least. The power numbers are not quite there for some of these guys. You've had the likes of Tristan Casas, Sadane Rafaela not be able to really move line for the team. Both of these guys a sub 315 on base. Alex Bregman has been rock solid, hitting above a 300 with some solid power. Tristan Casas has been rough, but Trevor Story has been able to pick it up, hitting above a 300. And then for the Seattle Mariners, this team is averaging north of 5 runs per game away from home. Dylan Moore is giving you more, as he, Cal Raleigh, Randy Arozarena, guys like this are giving you north of a 340 on base. You've actually had Luis Rivas be able to do a nice job finding way on base, and though J.P. Crawford is only hitting right around about a 240 for the season, his on-base percentage north of a 380, and he was able to get his first home run yesterday as well. And for Seattle, it's not a great bullpen. It's not a terrible bullpen, about league average with that regard. Andres Munoz has been a dominant closer, but you've got guys like Edward Bazardo, Colin Sider, Gabe Spire. These guys, that can be a little bit hit or miss in that bullpen. Taylor Skato as well. And then for the Boston Red Sox, this has been a pretty bad bullpen, not going to lie, as you've got Aroldis Chapman right now at the closer spot. He's not necessarily too trustworthy. Liam Hendricks, it's a great story, but he's trying to acclimate to being back at the big league level. Garrett Woodlock in a multi-inning spot, I think, is relatively rock solid, but I do think that in the end, the Red Sox find a way to persevere, and this is a very much hitterish ballpark, to say the least, out there in Boston. I do think that you're going to find some runs on both sides. So I did set my total at 8.2. I like the over, and at a plus 135 or higher, won't take that Red Sox run line. 907, 908 on the betting board. The Walker Texas Rangers at the road to face off against the Athletics as JT Ginn and Juice is on the bump for the A's, and you got Jacob deGrom on the bump for the Texas Rangers. Rangers are between minus 144 to minus 147 favorites. Meanwhile, you're getting anywhere between plus 122 to a plus 134 on the A's, and 9 is the total. The under is minus 120. The over is even, and I set the A's at a plus 147, so I'd be willing to go up to about that minus 145, minus 146 on the Rangers money line. If you're looking at the run line, you're only getting about plus 105 to plus 110. I'd rather take a little bit of chalkier money line because with Jacob deGrom, he's not quite the same Jacob deGrom that we've seen in the past. The injuries have taken a little bit out of him, and let's call it what it is. He's up to like 36 years old now, but still, in his last term, he was able to look relatively rock solid. He's only getting about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings beginning the season, but I do believe that he just needed a few starts to be around into form, and I don't know if he quite gets back to the guy that was getting like north of 12 strikeouts per 9 innings, but I think that he's going to be a very good form of himself. And then for JT Ginn, he had a really nice first start of the season. I need to see a little bit more from him in order to be fully bought in on Mr. JT Ginn, but that said, in his first 2 starts, he's given up 4 runs in 10 innings. He's getting quite a few strikeouts. He's been able to get north of 11 strikeouts per 9 innings. If you take a look at what he was able to do at the minor league level, he is a little bit of a strikeout artist. He was getting more like 9 strikeouts per 9 innings at the minor league level, but that was also in the PCL where it's very hard to be able to get strikeouts. You're playing at elevation, what have you, and for the A's, this has been a very fearsome lineup with Tyler Soderstrom supplying the team with 9 home runs going into yesterday. That has just been absolutely incredible. And additionally, you've got for the A's a guy in Brent Rooker who's not necessarily doing the world's greatest job of moving the line this far this season, but he's been able to give the team 6+ homers. You've got a lot of guys for this Oakland A's team that are just trying to be able to find a way to move the line. Jacob Wilson, 0 walks thus far this season, but hitting at .337. Luis Urias is hitting at .300. Miguel Andujar has been rock solid as well. And then on the Texas Rangers side of things, they have to deal with quite a few injuries, but getting back a guy in Josh Young, I think is absolutely incredible because when he's been out with injury, it has really affected this team. They now have Wyatt Langford back as well, and Adolis Garcia does have 4 home runs, not necessarily doing a great job of being able to get on base, and Marcus Semien, it's been a slug for him to start the season, but feels like he's starting to bust out as well. Jack Peterson hitting 0.52 is less than tremendous. And for the Rangers, the bullpen, it does leave quite a few question marks when you have the likes of Robert Garcia, Luke Jackson, Sharon Armstrong. These are guys that I don't really trust. And Mark Church, honestly, has not been terrible, but again, that's a guy that you don't want to be trusting in too much with the bullpen. And for the A's, this has been a bottom 8 team with regards to their bullpen ERA because Mason Miller is tremendous, but you've got a lot of schlubs out there that are not doing their part for this team. Jose Leclerc, the former Texas Ranger, Noah Murdoch, TJ McFarland. These guys have not been good this far this season, so it's an interesting circumstance. I did set my total at an 8.8. I do have belief in both of these starters going out there, give you a good go of it, and I do think that Jacob deGrom is going to round back into form, so I'd like a minus 145. We'll take a shot on the Rangers money line, and I'm going to be in on the under, set my total at 8.8, and with the rain out yesterday, we actually have 2 games to hit here, 909, 910, and 917, 918 on the betting board. You've got the Colorado Rockies, and they're going to be on the road facing off against the Kansas City Royals, as game number 1 is going to involve German Marquez going for the Rockies, and Cole Ragans is on the bump for the Kansas City Royals, and then game number 2 is going to be Chase Dollander going up against Michael Lorenzen. That is 917, 918 on the card. We'll hit Marquez versus Ragans, and then we'll go Dollander versus Lorenzen after that, and when it was supposed to be Chase Dollander going up against Cole Ragans, because that was the original pitching matchup, Marquez now going in game number 1. This was a line where you were seeing most places posting up Marquez and the Colorado Rockies as a about plus 215, plus 225 underdog, and then if you're looking at the Royals, you will find them more in that neighborhood about a 260, 265 with that run line price hovering right in the neighborhood about a minus 120 to a minus 125 or so, and if we can get like a minus 122 or better with regards to Kansas City Royals, I will be so willing to take them on the run line, and I was seeing totals of an 8.5. I would be willing to take a shot on the under if we get an 8 or an 8.5. I set my total at 7.2. With Cole Ragans, he has been rock solid this season. He is still getting well north of 11 strikeouts per 9 innings, has given up 3 earned runs or fewer in 4 out of his first 5 starts of the season, and I think that this guy is going to be able to just reel it in against a Rockies team that's averaging 2 runs per game away from home this far this season. And by the way, to be precise, 13.7 strikeouts per 9 innings for Cole Ragans thus far this season, and that's just going to be too much for a Rockies team that they've got 6 home runs on the road thus far this season in 13 games, and Hunter Goodman has 3 of them. You just have nobody that's able to move the line for this team, as away from home, they're currently hitting below the Mendoza line of a 200. You just have not been able to get anything whatsoever out of your superstar bats, especially with Chris Bryant being on the injured list. Matter of fact, each of your top 3 hitters in terms of total at-bats on the road this year, Michael Toglia, Ezekiel Tovar, Ryan McMahon, all hitting a $128 or lower, with 2 of these guys, Toglia and Tovar, giving you less than a 155 on base. That's just absolutely terrible. Mickey Moniak is giving you a little bit of something. He's got 2 home runs on the road, hitting about a 250. And Nick Martini's been hitting right around 300, so you have a little bit of something there, but this is a lineup that's just absolutely pathetic. And for the Royals, bullpen has been a little bit better this year. Victor Vodnik is currently on the injured list, but I've liked what I've seen recently. I'd like of Tyler Kinley, Jake Bird. These guys have been able to give you sub 3.5 ERA. Jimmy Harrigan, not a terrible ad. Scott Alexander has been awful though, and Luis Peralta is just giving you nothing whatsoever. And for the Royals, even though you did have Carlos Estevez act up a little bit on Tuesday, you've got he along Lucas Erceg in the back half of the bullpen. I like what they're able to provide. Now, when you get into Chris Stratton, Anel Zerpa, these guys could be a little bit of a roll of the dice. And right now for the Royals lineup, it's a roll of the dice. They are currently 30th out of 30 teams in terms of total runs per game. Lone team in the big leagues, averaging fewer than 3 runs per contest, but I do think that they should be able to right the ship sooner rather than later. You do have Bobby Witt Jr. has been able to do a nice job, give you about a 381 on base. Only 2 home runs on. That's been the issue for the Royals. 12 home runs in the first 24 games of the season. Like Miguel Garcia is able to give you a 360 on base. Now you do have a lot of guys like MJ Melendez, Salvador Perez, Hunter Renfroe, Vinny Pasquantino hitting below $190, and Jonathan India less than a 300 on base himself. But I do think that these guys are going to be able to turn it around. And then when it comes to Germán Marquez, he just has not been himself this year, giving up about 4.5 walks per 9 innings, just barely above 6 strikeouts per 9 innings. He has dealt with injuries over the last few seasons that has just kept him off the mound in general, and he just does not look right in general. So I do think that if you can get numbers that are relatively similar to when this game was taken off the board when it was expected to be Dollander, I would be willing to take a shot on the Royals, willing to lay up to a minus 122 with that run line. And then as long as we don't have a total of 7 or less, I'll be in on the under. And then in terms of that Dollander versus Michael Lorenzen start, I'd be willing to lay up to a minus 117 on that Royals run line. I set them at a minus 230 on the money line. We need at least a plus 231 to take a shot on Dollander. And then at an 8.5 or less, I'm in on the over, a 9 or higher to the under. Michael Lorenzen last year was one of the more lucky pitchers in all baseball, a 480 fielding dependent, but a 331 ERA. He's honed it in with the walks this season. Last year, north of 4 walks per 9 innings, less than 3. This season, the swing and miss stuff is up just a tad. And again, when you're going against this Rockies team that's just so deplorable with their bats, that's really going to be able to help you out. And Dollander, he has given up 8 home runs at his first 3 starts of the season, but I will say this, he has been better when he's been on the road. Now, that first road start was against the San Diego Padres, and San Diego is very much a pitcher-friendly ballpark, but 5+ innings allows just 2 runs. Most of the struggles that he's had have come at Coors Field, and I can only imagine being a rookie trying to pitch at Coors Field. That's not necessarily a place where you do want to be. He's got really good swing and miss stuff. At the minor league level, was always getting north of 12 strikeouts per 9 innings, but right now it's just getting hit relatively hard. Good news for him, he gets to go up against a Royals team that has been struggling at the plate. I do think that both of these offenses show a little bit more fight, though, so 8.5 or less, we'll be looking at the Dollander versus Lorenzen total over and a 9 or higher to the under, and would be willing to lay up to a minus 117 on that Royals run line. We need north of plus 230 to take a shot on the Rockies on the money line. 9-11, 9-12 on the betting board. The Washington Nationals play us the Baltimore Orioles. Cade Bovich is on the bump for Baltimore, and Mackenzie Gore goes for Washington. And Washington does find themselves between minus 107 to minus 115 favorites, and between even money to minus 105. The number on Baltimore, 8.5 is the total. Overs between minus 120 to a minus 130. The unders between even and plus 110. And with Gore and company, I did set the Nationals at a minus 132. I'm going to be willing to lay the money line on them for Cade Bovich. Throughout his career, he just has not been great on the road, and we were talking about this in the previous segment with Chris Cichon. It's not necessarily trustworthy in terms of what you're getting out of him. As for Mr. Cade Bovich, throughout his career, 681 road ERA with 1.5 home runs allowed per 9 innings, and his strikeouts per 9 rate, which is 8.8 at home. It sinks to 6.6 away from him. And Mackenzie Gore, the ERA right now is 3.41, but that fielding independent is at 2.20. He is getting 14 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's worked on the walks issues that he's had in the past as well. I really like what I'm seeing there. And for the Washington Nationals, certainly this is a lineup that still leaves a little bit of something to be desired, but James Wood being able to give you 6+ home runs, doing a nice job finding way on base, that's a good starting point for the team. Keibert Ruiz is hitting darn near 300 along Nathaniel Lowe, and Lowe has been able to get low with being able to give you 4 home runs to be able to begin the season as well. You've had a few guys like Dylan Cruz, Jacob Young that need to pick it up a little bit, but both of those guys are starting to. Both of those guys the last 2 weeks have been hitting quite a bit better, so you like to see that. Do have my trepidations with the bullpen with Derek Law still on the injured list for Washington. Ori Lopez can be relatively reliable, but never have had a lot of faith in Kyle Finnegan, Lucas Sims, Colin Boucher, Jose Ferrer. Like, these are 3 guys that you really can't trust, and all have north of 4 ERA, and in the case of Boucher along with Mr. Lucas Sims, man, they have not been good thus far this season, but it's not to say that the Baltimore Orioles pitching has been a whole heck of a lot better. I actually do like Ynier Cano, Felix Bautista in that bullpen, and Sir Anthony Dominguez, Gregory Soto, the former Philadelphia Phillies, have been a little bit better thus far this season, so we'll give a little bit of credit there. But with the Orioles, even though they're in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of runs per game, it's just very hit or miss with this offense. Like, Cedric Mullins has been tremendous. Going to yesterday, north of 440 on base, 6 home runs to begin the season. Jordan Westburg, Adley Rutschman both have 4 home runs to start the season, but both guys are just not getting on base the way that you'd expect. Both hitting a 200 or lower going into yesterday with less than a 300 on base as well. Gunnar Henderson is just not moving the line along Jackson all day as well. You can tell that Henderson might be still dealing with that ailment just a little bit. Ryan O'Hearn has been dealing with injuries as well, so it does make it a very interesting ordeal. I do think that Gore is going to go out there, shut down the Baltimore Orioles. I do think that Povich is going to pitch a little bit better on the road as well, so I did set my total here at an 8.2. I'm going to be one thing shot on the under, but I do like the Nationals on the money line. Did set them at a minus 132. 913, 914 on the betting board. The Pittsburgh Pirates hit the road. They're facing off against the LA Angels. Tyler Anderson is on the bump for the Halos, and Carmen Moldazinski is on the bump for Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh does find themselves between plus 118 to plus 125 underdogs, and between minus 135 to minus 140. That number on the Halos, 8.5 is the total. Over and under, anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115. And with Anderson and company, I did set the Angels at a minus 136. So minus 135 is that max buy point on them, but I'm going to be willing to lay. Moldazinski just should not be a starter right now. He was pretty rock solid in the bullpen last season. I'm not going to call him like Mariano Rivera 2.0 or anything like that, but you know what? He was holding down the fort. He gives up a few more walks than what you'd like, but he was doing a fine job. But as a starter in 4 starts, he has allowed 14 runs in 17 innings. He's not giving you great length. He's not giving you a lot of strikeouts. He's giving up north of 4 walks per 9 innings. Honestly, he's doing a good job of being able to hold the ball in the yard. He's not giving up homers, but yeah, that's not great. And when you got this Pittsburgh Pirates bullpen that is also not great, that's a bit of an issue. David Benhar just came up from the minor league level after he was pooping the Benhar time and time again to begin the season. He just has not been right for the last 12 months or so. Colin Olderman has been dealing with some injuries. That's been a little bit less than amazing for them as well. And it's not like you've got some sort of a lineup that's absolutely fearsome or something like that. Oneil Cruz has been able to give you 5 home runs this season, give you about a 350 on base. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa has been able to give you about a 350 on base. Brian Reynolds is starting to get his head out of his rear. He's been looking a little bit better as well, but and you've got the likes of Jack Swiniski, Andy Rodriguez, Jared Trollo. Those guys at the bottom of the folder giving you nothing. Tommy Pham is sitting below the Mendoza line of 200, and going to yesterday, he has as many home runs as myself. So that's not a place where you want to be in for the LA Angels. This has been a boomer bust team. They're one of the lesser teams in the big leagues in terms of getting on base, in terms of batting average, but you got a lot of guys that are slugging the snot out of the ball right now. Mike Trout with his 8 home runs going into yesterday. Rock solid though, hitting just a $177 to begin the season. You don't expect that for Mike Trout. He's got 14 hits to begin the season. 8 of them flew over the fence. Taylor Ward has been able to give you 6 home runs. Logan O'Hoppe, Kyron Paris, both of these guys up to 5 bombs as well. Ori Soler, about a 325 on base. He's been able to supply 4 home runs. Again, 222 average, 282 on base for the Angels entering into yesterday, but you've been able to have all that power. And for the Angels, this is a revamped bullpen, even with Ben Joyce currently being on the injured list. You've got a guy in Kenley Jansen that when you don't put him on the brightest of bright lights, and you're not going to be fighting that with the LA Angels, he's actually pretty rock solid. Ian Anderson has not been working out in the bullpen, and Brock Burke was pretty solid towards back half of the season last year. He's been a little bit more, shall we say, shaky thus far this season, but I like what Ryan Zefrian is able to give you in this bullpen. And on the flip side, it is a Pittsburgh Pirates bullpen that, again, Colin Holderman, he has not been able to live up to his name when he's been out there, and now he's dealing with a little bit of an injury. You've got likes of Caleb Ferguson and company that they do have some suspectness with them. And for Tyler Anderson, it's very interesting. He was posting up an ERA that was sub 250 a away from home at home. That was well north of a 4.5 last season, and he was one of the more lucky pitchers in all baseball, in my opinion, 8 seasons ago. Thus far this season, 2.08 ERA, 4.69 fielding dependent. He's up with his swing and miss stuff through the first 4 starts, 21 strikeouts and 21 2/3 innings, but he's giving up 5 walks per 9 innings. I do think that there's going to be a little bit of regression there, but again, I think that it's going to come against a little bit of a better lineup than the Pittsburgh Pirates. So it is a circumstance where I think that he's still going to be able to go out there, hold down the fort. Some might tell it at 8.2. I like the under, and I do like up to a minus 135 on the Angels money line, and we have things up with 9.15, 9.16 on the betting board. The Tampa Bay Rays hit the road for facing off against the Arizona Diamondbacks. Corbin Burns is on the bump for the Snakes. Drew Rasmussen is on the bump for the Rays, and the Rays do find themselves as underdogs of between plus 115 to plus 120, minus 130 to minus 135. That number on Arizona, 8 is the total, over and under anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115, and for these Snakes, set them at a minus 138. Corbin Burns has not been the normal Corbin Burns that we all know and love, but still, I think that he's going to be able to go out there, hold down the fort for this team, and for Mr. Corbin Burns, even though the swings and misses are not quite there like they have been in past years, I do think that he is still going to be able to do a better job of holding the ball in the yard. 4.64 ERA, 5.42 fielding independent, but it's been a matter of circumstance where he's faced off against some pretty good lineups. He had to go to Wrigley Field as well, so that was a little bit daunting for him, but that said, he has still given up 300 runs or fewer in 3 out of his first 4 starts of the season, and he's still been able to give some relatively good length here in the last few starts, and he is backed up by a bullpen of the Arizona Diamondbacks that is without their main closer and AJ Puck. That does hurt them a little bit, but I still do like some of these guys like Justin Martinez, who is dealing with a little bit of injury. He might not be available for this game, but Jalen Beeks, Shelby Miller, they're able to give you multiple innings. They were both former starters. Ryan Thompson is someone that I do like, as well. Having Kevin Ginkel on the injured list has been hurting them a little bit, but it's a really good elixir for that. Having the number 1 offense in all of baseball in terms of runs per game since the beginning of the 2024 campaign. Even with Ketel Marte on the injured list, you still have plenty of power as Corbin Carroll. Again, he was injured last year. I can't be convinced otherwise. Thus far this season, going into yesterday, 7 home runs, north of a 4 RBIs. Pavin Smith has been really good as well, hitting darn near 400 with 4 bombs going into yesterday as well. When you need someone like a Randall Grichuk, he's able to move the line. Tim Taywa has been rock solid. Geraldo Perdomo finds a way to be able to get on base, though Eugenio Suarez is not getting on base. He's giving you power. Josh Naylor has been hitting well above 300 as well. This has been a really good lineup. And then on the flip side for the Tampa Bay Rays, this has been one of the more upstart lineups in all baseball as well. How about Jonathan Aranda going into yesterday? Give you about 4 home runs. He's been able to hit well above a 300. Andy Diaz, after a rough start to the season, he's starting to find it in terms of power. Junior Caminero, he's been able to give you north of 250 average, 5 bombs. So I like what I'm seeing there. Christopher Morel, after he was awful last year, he's starting to move the line. So the likes of Taylor Walsh, Danny Jansen at the bottom of the lineup, but even Cameron Misner is starting to give you some good innings, and you know that the Tampa Bay Rays team is going to be able to mix and match in that bullpen. So many guys that last year were able to give you a sub-3.5 ERA, even though Hunter Biggie, Edwin Uceta have been a little bit more shaky thus far this season. These guys are going to be able to find him. Manuel Rodriguez, Mason Englert, Eric Orze, these have been all rock solid guys along with Mason Montgomery, so I do like to see that, but that said, I do still have a little bit of trepidation in terms of starting pitching matchup here for the Rays, which is why I can't back them. With Drew Rasmussen, he's a steady Eddie guy. He'll probably go out there, give you 5 innings, and for his career, he's got right around about a 3 ERA. He's been able to get about 9 strikeouts per 9, and he's not going to give you a lot of walks, but I do think that having to go up against this Arizona Diamondbacks lineup that just slugs the ball at home, I do think that that's going to be a little bit too much. I do think that the Arizona Diamondbacks find a way to get the job done, so I might tell it at 8.1, so I do like the over, and I'm willing to lay up to a minus 138 on that money line, and that'll wrap things up for the Thursday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. A big thanks to our good friend Chris Cichon over at WBAL in Baltimore for joining me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of 2 ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at GUnit_81. Keep in mind, Larry ZM, name me does not matter, so per usual, please do send these into the timeline, and the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to on this podcast by that 5-star review, and I'm with you guys every single day throughout the baseball season, so I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.
If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine. And maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them. From disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.